Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern. Jay Stevens in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream.
That's right. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now. Episode 98. We are approaching 100.
We are approaching 100. Rapidly approaching.
You just start to think about what you want to do for your 100th episode. But in the
man.
meantime, we were on Jay's pick this week, which was it the search for DB Cooper?
DB Cooper, where are you?
DB Cooper,
There's
where
probably
are
one
you?
out there called The Search for DB Cooper, but this one's called DB Cooper, where are you? There's a lot of documentaries, but this is the newest one
on Netflix, which also tells the story of kind of the guy who's been searching for this. He was a longtime CBS Paramount reporter. He's dumped him thousands upon thousands. What do you say? Like
obsessed with it for sure, right?
Well, we'll get into his motives at this point a little bit down the line. But before we do that, we will talk about DB Cooper, also known, and actually DB was never his name, or he never referred to him as DB. He referred to himself as Dan Cooper.
And so how did it get
some
DB?
reporter
so
misheard it. Uh-oh. He's getting a collection call right now.
No, they're trying to sell me DirecTV. They call every day. I'm like, I don't need it.
I don't need it. I got rabbit ears. What do you want from me? I need 5 channels. Who cares? I'm not even home anyway.
I got Pornhub. That's all I need, dude.
And it's free. So anyway, some reporter misheard it and thought it was DB Cooper, but it was actually Dan Cooper. But by the time someone figured that out, they were like, DB's way better than Dan. So we're going to keep calling him DB Cooper.
Everybody probably knows the story, but basically, guy hijacked a plane, asked for a bunch of money, parachuted out, never was found. No body found.
One of my favorite episodes.
He got away with it.
One of my favorite episodes from Unsolved Mysteries. Actually used some footage from Unsolved Mysteries in this documentary, at least an interview with one of the stewardesses, I believe.
Yeah.
I had a new interview with the guy who sat next to him on the plane. I'd never seen him before, but that was
there was some new stuff in here. I've seen a lot of these documentaries about this, and this one has some deeper stuff. I really think it's that one guy though, that Rexstraw.
You think it's Rexstraw?
I think it was him.
I
because the guy never says no.
Yeah, but he's also a con man, and it just doesn't.
A slickster.
It just doesn't make it. It could be him. I'm not going to say that's not him. But before we get into our theories of who it is, let's talk a little bit about this documentary in the sense that they did bring out some new stuff.
Yeah.
The guy that they were after, Rick Straw, who you mentioned, has passed away. So that's just kind of the end of that.
Chapter, man.
They also had 2 pieces of evidence which you never really hear about, and one was cigarette butts that he smoked. At this point in time, the DNA could have just said, okay, well, we got the guy. Well, guess what? That evidence, which I guess was in Las Vegas for some reason, was gone.
What the hell?
The other thing that they had was the necktie he wore. And there was actually some stuff found on that necktie. And we'll talk about that next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 98. The search for DB Cooper.
DB Cooper, where are you?
DB Cooper, where are you? He's gonna have to keep reminding me. I don't even. There's so many DB Cooper stuff out there. It was a DB Cooper documentary on Netflix.
I feel this one closes the chapter. I mean, unless they get some kind of new evidence.
Okay, well, so good. That's good. That's a good point. Where we're going to. So the other piece of evidence they had was the necktie, and on it I guess they took a tape and they put it off, and they found some very rare metals, which at this time in history, which had been mid to late 70s. Not a lot of guys would have had this on them. It was titanium, and it was also titanium where they had like stainless steel smashed into it. So it was obviously someone that worked in the engineering area, or maybe where it made planes. It had knowledge of this stuff because he had it on his necktie. Now there is some argument about that necktie, and is it really even his to begin with? Was it just there and they're like, this was his? Again, the evidence in this kind of screwed up, but they think that he did work in engineering, may have worked where they made planes. Now, there is a theory that comes up at the very end of this about how DB could have been Canadian, and it's never actually been. It has been and hasn't been thought about, but I'd never heard this. There was a comic book strip called Dan Cooper, which is who DB actually called himself when he got into the plane. There was actually a comic strip that literally lays out what he did.
Yeah.
And the reason we don't know about it is because it was written for French Canadian speaking people. But Dan Cooper is kind of like a a French Canadian pilot, James Bond.
Yeah,
good
like a James
dude.
Bond character. Yeah.
At the time, the relations between Canada and US were not good because we were in the Cold War. Canada was like, if you screw this up with Russia, we're going to get screwed too. And you're the one dealing with this. So they didn't really like the US at the time. They were like, yeah, we're not going to do this. The FBI did go up to Canada to try and look into some people, but the government said, no, you're not doing that. You're not going to look at our people.
So is this going to go down as one of the modern mysteries that
like a Jack the Ripper type of thing?
Never get solved, right?
It's possible.
Very few things like that these days that don't get solved.
Yeah, especially with DNA, but the fact that they don't have any evidence, at least like DNA or stuff that was lost.
And like the money showing up on the beach years later, like very mysterious stuff.
The Rick Straw, the money showing up thing is another piece of the puzzle we have to talk about next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream discussing DB Cooper, Where Are You on Netflix. So Jay thinks it's Robert Rackstraw.
It seems like a lot of things point that way, and he was from the beginning. He was one of the suspects. He never really denies it, but he never admits it. Now that he has died, what if like one of his kids or something just comes out and just goes, "Hey, yeah, he was DB Cooper"? Would that end the case?
Well, they need facts.
But I mean, because everybody's saying it was him. He just won't admit it.
His sister kind of says at some point, it could have been him, right, but at the same time,
it could have been him.
But also, I mean, yes, he was cold. He technically had the training. He also claimed he worked for the CIA, which could go either way.
Right, which a lot of people did back in those days too.
And he could have run stuff in Iran, and he supposedly was there in the Iran contraband and stuff like that. Also, he was also caught in a lot of lies.
A lot of lies too.
When he signed up for the military, he lied about some of the things he did in his service. He was dishonorably discharged, which made him angry, which they say is the reason why he did this, was just an FU to the government and the military from them kicking him out. The whole story about the party where they're at the party, and he says that hippie family is going to find a bag of money on the coast of the river, and they did. But again, that also could be the code stuff that guy breaks in the letters.
That got a little weird.
Well, so that is something else. That was part of the other thing I wanted to talk about is some of the new stuff they talk about, the Dan Cooper comic strip I'd never heard of, and the letters, which they reported, I guess, a couple years ago, that the FBI did have some DB Cooper letters that he had sent that they never released before, and they think they're legitimate. And there was some sort of code in certain lines where if you took the letter and a number, it equals something, and then you do something else. It's like a hindsight code almost.
A little stretchy. Yeah, like trying to make the
one of the guys was like,
one
of the guys says, yes, it says I am Lieutenant, blah blah blah, Rackstraw.
Yeah,
but then the other guy goes, what it also says, I am SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
So it's all hindsight. Again, you could say, well, he would have done this, but again, if you don't have proof, you don't have proof. Which brings me to the next thing is a lot of this story is talking about the reporter who wholeheartedly believes it's Rackstraw, and he's put $200,000+ into this thing. At a certain point, and it gets brought up many times in the documentary, what is his aim? Is it to find the truth, or is it to say that I was right this whole time? This is all my evidence. Here you go, Hollywood.
It's his passion project.
Sell it,
right?
Because that's what he's working towards. It's an investment at a certain point. It has to be. It really, really, really has to be, because he's put all this time and money and all this effort into it. Again, for what? To get the truth out there, or to make money?
Is DB Cooper considered a criminal fugitive, or is he considered an American folk hero?
That's, to me, I think he's a folk hero, because I mean, he didn't hurt anybody.
He stuck it to the man.
He stuck it to the man, and
apparently got away with it. I mean, did he
minus
die?
Like what,
Maybe,
20K or something like that?
Never a body found. Never. I think the dude pulled it off, man.
Well, again, back to the Canadian thing, there were a couple things in the notes that they were, when he was asking, and he says, I want 200,000 in American currency.
Right. That was some interesting stuff there,
which
man.
No one as an American would ever say that. You
No.
would never say that. And there was something else that was English jumbled up that makes me again think it was in Canadian.
Maybe they were chasing up the wrong tree this whole time.
I think they were. I mean, the Rackstraw thing makes sense because on paper it's so perfect. This guy had anger issues and all this stuff. But that's something else I wanted to talk about. They talked about Rackstraw. So when my eldest and I watched this together, and I go, there are two things that bother me about Rackstraw. One, he's a liar, and it's proven that he's a liar. And yes, he didn't say yes or no that I'm not, but he also likes, I'm sure that everyone kind of thinks
stringing him along a little bit. Yeah.
Well, who wouldn't?
But why didn't he take the money when he was offered all this money?
$20K, because then he has to admit openly in court that he was the guy who robbed this plane. And I don't think there's a statute of limitations on hijacking and kidnapping and extortion and all this stuff. Eventually, they would find a way to. And he was sure. I'm sure he was scared of that, considering his background. Which, by the way, he was charged with the murder of his father, but somehow got acquitted.
Right.
It definitely killed him.
Well, was he working for the CIA? Is that how he
well,
got out
at the certain point, how you got to say that the government went so far to protect this guy? Like, what exactly does he know? You know what I mean? At that point, it's like, what really? I don't know. The other thing that bothered me is he reportedly had some severe anger issues, right? He had domestic disputes issues. His sister said that he would blow up all the time, through chairs, out windows, stuff like that. The description of DB from the people on the plane was that he was cool, calm, and collected. And to me, someone that's got anger issues, especially when things weren't really going right during the whole hostage thing,
at least flare up a little bit.
He would get angry, and someone would have possibly gotten hurt if he had been involved.
Well, Mike,
it doesn't really fit his MO.
Maybe we found our new calling. Maybe we start becoming investigators to find the real DB Cooper.
I can't believe they have like festivals and stuff for this thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But
there was a bar where I grew up in LA. There was a bar, DB Cooper's bar or something.
Really?
It was like a little small hole in the wall that was.
Maybe they have people sitting there right now trying to figure it out. But again, facts are facts, and that's the problem with what this reporter had done. Is like at a certain point, it's like you're not trying to uncover the truth. You're trying to prove the facts that you have that point in that direction. And that's a tough thing to do, especially when you've got to be critical. I mean, yes, he says he's a reporter and stuff, but at a certain point, what's he in it for? And that's what we're going to figure out next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mighty Intern Jay Stevens back in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 98. DB Cooper, where are you? So you still think it's Rackstraw after all this?
I just feel like everything's kind of pointed that direction, but the world will never know.
And we'll see. I mean,
it's like how many licks to a lollipop thing. The world will never know.
I don't know. He got away with it. Scott clean. Again, I don't know why the hell. See, that was the thing about the Canadian thing is the American currency, and why the hell did he request $20 bills? Because you know how much weight $200,000 is in 20s, and then you're putting that on top of you in a parachute. Yeah, I know, me too. But it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. And I mean, but he did it either way. He got away with it. And it's been one of my favorite mysteries for a long time, because there's really, other than the banks or whoever lost the $200K, which could have been the cover, hell, it's probably the insurance company. So couldn't have happened to a better person. It's a victimless crime in that. And I applaud him for pulling it off. And it also sucks because he set the tone for what we have to go through at airport security every time we fly. Back then, you could literally walk in and whatever the hell you wanted to do, and it doesn't matter.
Whatever name,
fly.
You could fly.
You can fly whatever you want. Now, if you got a bottle of water in your bag, they're going to pull you aside and treat you like you're a drug mule, which is crazy. Anyway, I would give this documentary 3.5 black sunglasses.
I was gonna go 3 black sunglasses,
just because I think they were trying to tell so many stories. Story of the reporters,
but there was
the theories.
A couple little new things.
I feel like 4 episodes was too long, but again, they definitely had a lot to tell, and they did a pretty good job of this. I personally think he was Canadian. He was probably one of those pissed off pilots they let go in the early 70s that wanted to, because I mean, $200K at that point in time was $1 million. And then in Canadian money, it probably was even more. He bought a farm, went and did his own thing, and probably made it a good
watching
life.
These documentaries and laughing.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he'd be in his 90s if he's still alive.
Yeah, it might be a tough call to be alive.
I would never, if it was me, I would never tell my family. You know what I mean? It just, hell, let's go buy a house.
You wouldn't do deathbed confession?
No.
Confessional?
No, because they're putting them on blast. They have to deal with it. We got the money. We got out of the situation. Because it seemed to me like this guy was doing a job, and he succeeded at his job. And if that was for whatever reason he needed that money to get somewhere else or do something else, he succeeded. And that's why we never heard from him again. Because if he had been a career criminal like Rackstraw had, he's going to do it again or do something else like this. Eventually, he's going to get popped.
You get cocky. You think, I can do that. I can do this.
Yeah. So again, this guy
maybe it was actually the smartest way to do it.
Get quick money, in and out, one job, and be done with it. I mean,
here we are talking about him in Springfield, Missouri.
I mean, yes, he could have sold his story, he could have made all his money, but again, if there was a goal and he achieved that goal, being as smart as he apparently was, he stuck to it, and you got to give him, good job. Good job. All right. Next week is my pick for Dark Side of the Stream. We're going to watch a documentary also on Netflix that I came across, is How to Fix a Drug Scandal, which talks about some of the drug testers on the East Coast that were not only testing the drugs, but using them in a big way. Yep. These are live on Facebook every Thursday at 9, YouTube on our 104.7 The Cave app. I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you we watch movies so you don't have to. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.